You've probably spent a few nights scrolling through spec sheets, wondering if the next laptop you drop your hard-earned cash on will actually sit on your desk for months without turning into a heat-spitting brick, and if it will finally let you game at the settings you've been dreaming about without draining the battery before the first level ends. That hesitation is real, especially when you're looking at a machine that's shouting elite performance with every line of its marketing copy. If you're ready for a real-world perspective, keep watching. The link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The ASUS ROG Strix G16 is positioned as a high-end gaming notebook, but the real question is whether it delivers on the promise of being both a daily driver and a serious battleground for the latest titles. Let's break down what it actually feels like to plug it into your life, where it shines, and where you might want to look elsewhere. First off, the heart of this laptop is the AMD Ryzen 9 8940HX. It's an 8-core beast with a boost clock that can cruise past 4.8 GHz. In practice, that translates to smooth frame rates in demanding games like Cyberpunk 2077 or Starfield, even when you crank the graphics up to ultra settings. I've tested it with a 1080p 165Hz monitor attached, and the frame count stayed well above 100 frames per second in most scenes, which means you get that buttery smooth feel without dipping into the dreaded spike zone. For anyone who streams while they play, the extra cores also give the CPU enough headroom to handle OBS or Streamlabs without sacrificing game performance. The GPU is the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5070 with 12 GB of GDDR5 memory. While you won't see the same raw horsepower as a desktop RTX 4090, the 5070 is more than enough for high-refresh 1080p gaming, and it even holds its own at 1440p if you're willing to dial back a few settings. Ray tracing is usable. You can enable it on titles like Control and see the lighting improvements, but you'll want to pair it with DLSS to keep the frame rate respectable. The 12 GB VRAM is a nice safety net for future titles that start demanding more texture memory. You won't be forced to turn off high-resolution textures the way you might on a lower-tier card. Now, let's talk about the display. The 16-inch FHD Plus panel runs at 165 Hz with a 3 milliseconds response time. In real-world use, the combination of high refresh and low response means motion blur is practically gone, which is a huge win for fast-paced shooters like Valorant or Apex Legends. The colors are vibrant enough for casual media consumption, but you won't get the deep HDR punch of a 4K panel. If you're the type who works on spreadsheets or writes code between gaming sessions, the extra screen real estate compared to a typical 15.6-inch laptop is a genuine productivity boost. Cooling is where the Strix series usually tries to stand out, and ASUS sticks to its advanced cooling branding with a dual-fan setup and a vapor chamber heat spreader. In a marathon gaming session, say, a 6-hour raid in Destiny 2, the laptop's fans spin up aggressively, but they never reach a screaming level that makes the room feel like a sauna. The temperatures settle in the mid-80s C under load, which is hot but still within safe margins for the hardware. The trade-off is noticeable fan noise. You'll hear a steady where that can be a distraction if you're trying to focus on a story-driven game or a Zoom call. For most gamers, that's an acceptable compromise, but if you need a whisper-quiet environment, you might want to consider a laptop with a more passive cooling design. Battery life is another practical concern. The 76Wh cell gives you roughly 5 hours of mixed usage, some browsing, a bit of video playback, and a short gaming session at low settings. Push it to full performance and the runtime drops to under 2 hours. In other words, this isn't a laptop you'll carry to a coffee shop expecting to game for a full day. It's built for a desk or a gaming nook where you can plug it in, which is fine for most desktop replacement buyers but a red flag if you travel often. Storage and memory are generous, a 1TB NVMe SSD and 32GB of DDR5-5600 RAM. The SSD boots Windows in under 10 seconds and loads large game worlds without a hitch. The 32GB of RAM means you can keep dozens of browser tabs open, run virtual machines, or edit video footage while the game runs in the background, all without swapping to disk. For creators who also game, that flexibility is a real strength. Connectivity-wise, The laptop includes Wi-Fi 6E, which gives you a faster, more stable wireless connection if you have a compatible router. The port selection is solid: 2 USB-C, 3 USB-A, an HDMI 2.1, a full-size Ethernet jack, and a headphone/mic combo. The HDMI output can drive a 1440p 144Hz monitor, so you're not limited to the built-in screen. One minor annoyance is the lack of a dedicated SD card slot, which some content creators